So again, ma'am, this ain't an all of a sudden thing. They love to do that. Well, all of a sudden, why are they recognizing this all of a sudden? Well, this is an ongoing fight. And now we're starting to see the fruits of our fight. Now we're finally seeing the truth come out. A truth that ironically, people who come from your lineage, okay, West African, Africans in general, people in the Caribbean and the diaspora in general, have been denying us for years. Oh, we ain't forgot. You know, these same Negroes that sit over there now and they want to, it's the CIA, it's the FBI, it's an up. They are trying to confuse you. It's an up. They've been denying our indigenous ancestry for years, family. They've been saying, oh, we just don't want to be African. We're self-hating Africans. We're just ashamed of our true heritage and identity. They've been creating all of these narratives anytime we want to highlight our indigenous ancestry. But now that our indigenous ancestry, okay, and our citizenship is being proven, now they have an issue with it. Now they have to approach it from another angle. Because one of their biggest fears in the so-called diaspora is foundational Black Americans laying claim to our unique heritage, lineage, and culture. That petrifies them. So now the same people have been asking for proof. Oh, prove you're indigenous. Prove this, prove that. Why don't the Native Americans say you're indigenous? Why don't they say that? This and that, this and that. Now all of a sudden, oh, now that they're saying it, oh well, is it really because Africa is on the rise? This mythological Africa's on the rise. You know, Africa's always on the rise with them. It's always on the rise. It should give it 10 more years, give it 20 more years, give it 30 more years. Meanwhile, Africa's on the rise, and she's sitting over there with a British accent wearing a New York hat. But Africa's on the rise. She ain't rising in Africa. She rising over in England. But Africa's on the rise. So understand the games they play, family, and don't let these folks confuse you and bamboozle you. Okay? But let's continue.
Here's the lesson, right? Identity is also economics. Whoever controls the story controls the land, the resources, the wealth that follows. And this isn't about denying anyone's history. It's about questioning why this story gets spotlighted at this exact moment. One side may call it justice and another will call it erasure. But the real question is this, right? Is this about correcting history or about containing Black power? Because history shifts when power shifts.
Definition of CRIN, which in turn will improve the transparency of how SHDs impact a particular person based on their background, okay? Again, SHD, social health disparities, and CRIN, cultural, race, ethnicity, and nationality. All of these things are very important. This is institutional recognition, ladies and gentlemen, and specificity terrorize people because it ends cosplay. No more cosplaying as Black Americans. No more cosplaying foundational Black Americans. See, African American was never a racial term. It was a geographical citizenship descriptor. Anyone from Africa who gains U.S. citizenship qualifies. White South Africans, also known as African Americans. North Africans, also known as African Americans. East Indians from Africa. Yes, Elon Musk is African American by definition. That doesn't mean that he's Black. Doesn't mean that he's a foundational Black American. So the question becomes, who was that term actually protecting? Because it was never protecting us. By clinging to the term African American, foundational Black Americans lose lineage-based reparation arguments, accurate crime attribution, targeted economic repair, historically clarity in education, exclusive legal recognition, because every time resources were distributed, African Americans qualified, which meant that descendants of slavery competed with recent immigrants that just got here. Unequal histories were treated as equal claims. This is not solidarity. This is misallocation. When foundational Black Americans create music, culture, political movement, social change, we are told that came from Africa. We got our strength from Nigeria or the Igbo or West Africans or East African or South Africans, wherever they may be in Africa. Also, that came from Jamaica or the Caribbean. That came from somewhere else. And we absorb the blame, the punishment, the stigma, but not the ownership. Culture without lineage is theft with better PR. Delineation shuts that down. Notice who's angry about delineation. Not white conservatives, not right-wing think tanks. It's the tether class, because delineation means No more double dipping, no more proxy leadership, no more hiding behind generic blackness. Now the question is unavoidable. What lineage are you from? Don't they hate that question? That question changes everything.
That goal was perfect.
Because foundational Black Americans are the only group that is non-immigrant, non-optional, non-removable, constitutional anchored. The 14th Amendment exists because of us. Civil rights laws exist because of us. Due process doctrine exists because of us. We are not guests. We are the foundation of America. The term African American is dead, not because Africa doesn't matter, but because lineage matters more. Lineage shapes policy, policy shapes power, and power determines survival. This isn't hate, this isn't xenophobia. This is accounting, and the books are finally being balanced. This is Black logic. We don't dissolve into confusion, we define ourselves. And once you do that, the entire game changes.
So guys, get this, right? After hundreds of years, the Cherokee Nation recently ruled and acknowledged past exclusion of freedmen families, descendants of people once enslaved by the tribe, promised citizenship in the 1866 treaty, then later cut out and reclassified as Black. Now, generations later, they're saying, guys, sorry, we were wrong. You do belong. And it's not just Cherokee. In July 2025, the Muskogee Creek Nation Supreme Court also ruled that freedmen descendants are entitled to citizenship under the 1866 treaty. So the question is, who decides this today and why now? Let me be clear from early, right? It is not my fight to say who is or isn't Indigenous to America or Africa. That is not the argument here, and I'm not questioning anyone's roots. What I am questioning is timing. Black America is at its most successful point in history. Census data shows a growing share of Black households now hold net wealth above $1 million. Though the exact numbers are debated, I don't know them, right? But it's far more than past decades. Wealth, influence, culture, global. At the same time, Africa is rising. The population is projected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050. And the continent holds around 30% of the world's critical minerals, with governments negotiating harder than ever with the West. For the first time in centuries, Africa has real leverage. So why is it only now that Black Americans are being publicly re-recognized as Indigenous? Could it be that it's too risky for them to let them fully identify as diaspora with roots in Africa? Because if the wealth, the skills, and the brains of Black America start flowing back to Lagos, Accra, Nairobi, that's a power shift that maybe the West can't afford.
No, ma'am. First and foremost, let's be clear, family. Y'all know this is Foundational Black Americans. Foundational Black Americans have been fighting, to reclaim their Indigenous heritage for decades now. This is not a new fight, ma'am. Maybe you're just now being aware of this because you're way over in Britain, But again, sticking your nose in our business, and you're so concerned about what Foundational Black Americans, what lineage and heritage and identifier we choose, that you're all up in our mix, But Foundational Black Americans have been fighting to reclaim their Indigenous heritage for decades. We can go back to recent cases in recent decades like Cherokee versus Nash, Muskogee versus Graham, and also Grayson and Kennedy versus the Muskogee Nation. A lot of Foundational Black Americans have been taking these tribes to court, over being robbed of their heritage, lineage, and identity, and their rightful resources that belong to them. This has been an ongoing legal battle since really 1866. You can go back to the days of 1904, more than 100 years ago, where you see the Cherokee versus the United States. And the United States and the Cherokee Nation were battling in court because they were kicking freemen out the tribe and denying freemen of their resources and rights that were supposed to be granted to them due to the Treaty of 1866. A lot of those land allotments, a lot of those reparation monies that Native Americans still receive to this day was also supposed to go to the so-called quote-unquote freemen. But these folks were racially kicked out of the tribe due to the Dawes Rose Act. And I actually break that down in my first video on the Foundational Black American Archive page. So go subscribe to my channel, go check out that video for more details on that. Family, the reason why many of these continental Africans and Caribbeans, they're very concerned about Indigenous tribes coming out here and saying, yeah, Black Americans do have Native American heritage and lineage. They're concerned about courts ruling in our favor, Courts stamping something that we've been going on and saying for centuries, that we have Indigenous ties to this land. They're concerned about it because now they can't control our identity. They can't be in control of our narrative, okay, our history, our culture, our lineage, and how we identify. Therefore, the economics gets messed up. Understand, family, these folks make billions of dollars every year off foundational Black Americans identifying and seeing themselves as some type of long lost generic African. How much money has Ghana made off of foundational Black Americans returning to Ghana, quote unquote, returning to Ghana? How much have these other African countries made? They've been running these games since Chief Alfred Sam, okay, back 100 years ago. Oh, return to Africa, come to Africa. This is your motherland. This is your homeland. Let's look recently at the Osho Speed Tour. Look how much money he has generated in tourism for the continent of Africa, how many eyeballs he's put on the continent of Africa. And now he's over there putting on the Caribbean. I don't know if he's still in the Caribbean. Look how many eyeballs and tourism dollars he opened up for them. They understand the power of the foundational Black American. See, these court rulings and these tribes saying this brings up a problem. This brings up a problem that, damn, now Black Americans are like, wait, hold on. Let me start looking into my indigenous ancestry. Let me start looking into my direct connections with these lands. Okay, these lands that are the Americas, specifically the United States of America. That presents a major problem for the continent of Africa. When you have foundational Black Americans who see themselves as one with this land, who see themselves as in their homeland, not some long lost Negro who was pulled off the continent of Africa 500 years ago, that means that foundational Black American is going to take his power, his influence, his ingenuity, his creativity in order to empower himself on this land. And that's a problem for continental Africans, because that means they're going to have to do for self. So as she said, they understand that the people who control our identity, control the narrative, and control the economic piece that goes along with foundational Black Americans. And they want our influence, our power, our money to flow towards Africa, even before it flows towards our own community. This is why they're so concerned. This is why they're always in our mix, family. They're reading articles about us. They have an issue with us connecting with our unique heritage. We have to overtly Africanize ourselves Monday through Sunday, okay? 7 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year, 365 days. Whatever way you want to slice it, we have to give all praise and all glory to Africa, because they need us to center them so we can empower them. So don't be fooled, family. Don't let them dismiss the information that is now coming out, the information we've been standing on forever. Don't let them change the narrative, family, and don't let them try to spin the information you're hearing now. Video, and she said a lot of nothing, but here's where I do agree with you. I do agree that she said whoever controls our identity controls the narratives and they control the economics, summarizing what she said. I do agree with that.